Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily. I'm Dave DuFour here with Andrew Schlect and Baraheni. Coming up, the Thunder are up 3-1, which means probably moving on to the finals. And S and I debate whether we should ban fouling while up 3. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, guys. Extra good morning for Andrew Schlect. The Thunder win what might have been the best basketball game of the year. Game 4 in the Western Conference Finals. They beat the Timberwolves 128-126. Andrew, I'm going to start with you because on the last show, when we talked about the Thunder's loss, I said they needed more out of Chet. They needed more out of J-Dub. Was this the best OKC Big Three game that we've seen out of these guys yet?
Well, I think S might have a stat for us, but I'll say anecdotally, yes, this was an absurd game from those three, specifically from Shai, who had 40, 9, and 10 in this one, and a steal. He was so surgical with his jumper tonight. Yep. He was finding the mismatch, and he was getting to his spots, and it didn't matter who it was, whether it was Jaden McDaniels or if it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, it didn't matter. He was going to get his jumper and it was going to go in. He just had a ridiculous game. And then J-Dub answered the call, as did Chet. They both hit massive threes down the stretch. Chet hit 2 threes tonight. Dub hit 6 out of 9 threes tonight. This was one of the best games from those three, and they needed it. I mean, you wondered, how are they going to respond? They just got beat by 40.
Yeah.
Just a couple nights ago. How are they going to respond? They responded in a big way, as did the Wolves. The Wolves played really well. Yeah. They played great. I don't think there's, outside of the turnovers, there's not a lot that you can complain about. The shot making was ridiculous from them tonight. Yeah. There were so many ridiculous shots that went down, and the Thunder needed like their best punch from their big three, and that's what they got.
Yeah, I mean, it started out J-Dub, just right off the bat, just got the whole thing rolling, had 3 threes in the first quarter. And, at the end of the first quarter, it felt like Minnesota should have been winning. They were hitting so many shots, but, OKC they killed him on the glass. They killed him in the turnover battle.
Yeah, the math battle came to help OKC tonight a little bit. So OKC ended up taking 95 shots. Minnesota ended up taking 84. The offensive rebounds were massive. Now, I know Minnesota kind of clawed back in that department overall towards the second half, but you mentioned turnovers. That's a huge part of this, where OKC constantly played with a lead in this game. And it was Minnesota trying to claw back with the 3-point shooting. I mean, their bench was just incredible in this game between Nasri, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They're cousins, by the way. They're cousins, if you guys don't know.
I'm not sure if you guys picked up on that from the broadcast.
Did you know?
They're related.
Did you know that Chet Holmgren is from Minnesota and SGA and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are cousins, folks? But no, it was an incredible game for Minnesota. So the way that OKC responded was great. I want to highlight SGA's playmaking. He ended up with 10 assists tonight, and Minnesota was clearly loading up on what he wanted to do as a scorer. He still ended up with 40, which is ridiculous to Andrew's point. But the fact that he was making the right reads, I thought this was like maybe the most consequential playmaking game of Shai's career that I've watched, because he was making the right calls, getting it to shooters. And to your point, Andrew, the shooters knocked down the shots. They capitalized on the opportunities Shai was creating for them. That's what you want out of your lead guard. That's what you want out of your MVP. And tonight he showed it off. It was awesome.
I thought Andrew was going to jump in there with something
S.
Yeah,
you teased a stat that you have not given us yet.
Okay, you're right.
Please give it to us, because it's very good, and I want you to get credit for it.
It's a great stat.
Okay.
It's a great stat.
You know what? I still have to cook through this, but from what I'm looking at here, SGA, J-Dub, and Chet combined for 95 points tonight. It's a lot of points, okay? And I was looking through OKC history to see if any other trios have scored that much. The only time they've been close to it was in 2011. It was a triple overtime game against the it was against the Memphis Grizzlies. OKC won that game. James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook scored 94 points. And tonight, it was 95 by J-Dub, Chet, and SGA. I mean, mathematically, statistically,
they are better, I think is what you're saying, S. That these guys are better.
It was the best OKC trio game of all time, apparently. So
I do want to. I want to talk a little bit. That is such a great stat, by the way. I do want to talk about the way that OKC guarded Anthony Edwards in this game. Took him out of the game. I mean, he basically did nothing in the entire first half of the game. Finishes up with 16 points. I mean, it's a little bit different than Randle, because Randle just looked like he didn't want to be involved and was actually trying to do stuff. And for a little while there, the best offense they were getting came from him just being more aggressive in the second half. I mean, Andrew, like, why didn't they just do this from the jump? I mean, it feels like they can just turn that switch on when it comes to the ball pressure. Do you feel like they're just picking their spots, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, as Lou Dort picked up fouls, I thought that it got a little bit more tricky for OKC because he's the guy that you want to really throw the pressure. And I think that they did a pretty good job of blitzing him as well. I think they did that a lot more than they typically do against a lot of ball handlers. They really just wanted everybody else to beat them. Yeah. And to the Wolves' credit, they almost did it. They almost did it with Nickeil with 23 points. He had 5 threes. DiVincenzo was 5 of 8 from 3 as well. He had 21. Naz Reid had 11. I mean, they almost did it. But you have to credit OKC. They really put him in a lot of trouble. They put Ant in a ton of trouble. He had 4 points at half. He played better in the second half, but still could not get freed up, in the closing moments of this game to make the impact that he needed to. A lot of it was Jaden McDaniels. McDaniels was really good, not only going to the bucket, he's an incredible finisher around the rim, but hitting corner threes. And the corner threes were open for them, and they hit a ton of corner threes tonight.
Capitalized.
I believe they hit 11 corner threes. Yeah.
11 corner threes is pretty wild. And, that gave them a shot. They were 11 of 18. They were 61% from the corners. And that's what you need. And that's usually what you get at home too. And so as this, series turns back to OKC, you have to be a little bit sick to your stomach if you're the Wolves, that you only got 16 points out of Ant Edwards, but you got everything, literally everything else you could want from everyone else.
Yeah. I actually think even worse than that is the 5 points out of Julius Randle.
It is
just
worse.
Been so up and down. And, it was so obvious that the defense was just keyed in on Anthony Edwards. This is the game where Randle's supposed to get 30, and it's a 2-point game, and he winds up with 5. I mean, we were talking a little bit. I was asking you, where's Randle? Did he get hurt? I mean, why does it look like he's avoiding the ball? And then down the stretch at the end of the game, it just felt like every single ball that was loose, that was near him, he got beat to.
Yeah, it seemed like he was a step slow to everything. And I think the jumper wasn't flowing for him early. And I don't know, when it's a game like this where Ant has to get things going for you. He had 6 assists and 5 turnovers tonight. I think part of that, to your point, Andrew, was the pressure that OKC was applying. Lou Dort was massive in this game as the primary assignment on Ant Edwards. And I think Ant did an okay job, actually a pretty good job, I would say, of trying to get Minnesota's offense running. The reason they got those corner threes was because of the driving kicks, because of the fact that Ant was putting pressure on the rim. Randle was not doing that. And I think that was a very, very missed opportunity from Randle to do that. The question you have moving forward with Minnesota, and if they can do it, is can they replicate this type of shooting on the road against OKC? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think this is a very, very tall task for Minnesota moving forward.
How nervous are you that this is going to get to 6 games, Andrew? If you were just to put this on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you place it?
I mean, nerves wise, 7. I mean,
you can do the woe meter if you want. Yeah,
the woe meter.
I think the worry meter.
This is a very young Thunder team that has never been in this spot before.
Yeah.
And so the pressure, it's interesting because when you look at playoff series, some of it is about the pressure that a certain team feels, and whenever a team has their back against the wall, that team usually plays better. We saw that they blew the Thunder up by over 40 points.
Yeah.
And now like the pressure is more equalized after that, where it's like back on OKC, but still kind of on the Wolves. Cause if you go down 3-1, it's pretty rough. Now there's a lot of pressure on the Thunder to close this out. Like, how do they handle that? You know, how do they handle being up 3-1? Thunder franchise has been up 3-1 before. I'll tell you that. And
you don't have to bring that up right now.
Listen, dude, I'm just telling you. I just am curious to see. I predict the Thunder are going to win in game 5. I think they will win game 5, but it will be really interesting to see what that looks like. I think this team, even though they're younger, I think that they have a maturity that is probably greater than that 2016 Thunder team, to be honest. They're really special in a lot of ways. And one of them is that they've not really been rattled a whole lot, throughout this entire season. They don't lose multiple games in a row. They haven't lost multiple games in a row in the playoffs yet. And so I do think that game 5, it's at home. You have more comfort with your role players. You're closing it out. You have you're coming in with a ton of confidence. Like you just beat a Minnesota team that threw a really hard punch at you, and you came away and you won. You needed to split in Minnesota. They did that. I think they should be super, super comfortable coming back to OKC. I think they should win it. I think they will. I just think that it will be interesting to watch them, just because it is they're one win away from going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Like that is a huge deal for any franchise in the NBA, especially one of the younger ones. And so I am just so intrigued to see how they handle all of that.
Can I just say, throwback to 2011, 2012, OKC was down 2-0 in the Western Conference Finals to the Spurs.
Yep.
And they turned it on and won 4 in a row. And it was like this growing up moment for KD, Westbrook, Harden. You're like, wow, these guys have figured it out. They're beating the team that's dominated the West for years and years. And it's not the same tonight because Minnesota is still a young team and they have a young player on the other side with Anthony Edwards. But we've seen like multiple moments in this postseason run for OKC where they're growing up. Game 7 versus Denver is that grow up game. This game, I think, was a grow up game where you saw their 3 stars just show up in the best way possible. And like, this is terrifying for the league because all 3 of those guys playing the way that they just did, it seems sustainable in an era where it's really, really hard to remain sustainable as a contender. So I just thinking moving forward, it's just really impressive that this game turned out this way for OKC too.
I mean, look, during this game, I'm looking at Kayson Wallace's contract because I couldn't remember if he was a restricted free agent next summer or the year after. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with this Thunder team because all these guys are young. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented. Well, go and listen to Down to Dunk if you want more on the Thunder and their march to the finals. Andrew Schlect, thank you very much for hanging out. Guys, stick around after the break. S and I are going to come up with a solution for this fouling up 3 thing that's killing the end of games. The end of Wolves Thunder was a little bit controversial, and not because there was any missed call, although the fan catching the ball and it not getting reviewed was
Bartman.
A little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't review it. But the big controversy, was fouling up 3. I mean, it comes up every time there's a big game or a great game like that game last night, and you have a team with 3-point lead. And of course, they do not want to let the team that's down get a shot off. It is the smart move, right? Like strategically, that's the right move. It just stinks to watch on TV, right? It's a TV problem, not a basketball problem.
100%. The game is the game, right? The rules are there for a reason. And if they say you can foul up 3 with no consequences, cool. Teams should do it more often, right? Now, it has come to bite OKC in the butt before, right? I mean, you remember game 1 versus the Denver Nuggets where Aaron Gordon came back and hit a 3 like that. There are situations where if you don't foul up 3 properly, it could hurt you in a major way. But for the most part, it does work. And you see, I think even Mark Daigneault during that Denver game was like, hey, we look at the analytics and for the most part, it says fouling up 3 is the best solution to this. Okay.
But it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if the team doesn't do it, we hammer them for it every single time.
100%.
How did they not foul up three? So I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about it from a television product perspective. I mean,
from a fan perspective, it sucks. Yes.
Right. We're being robbed of some moments, right? Like, again, we don't get a real shot at a game tying three in what was the best basketball game of the year, potentially. So, to me, it's the fouling at the end of games that's a huge problem anyway. The defense getting an advantage. Shout out to Kevin Pelton, ESPN. Obviously, he's a big stats and analytics guy. He actually brought this up. The defense should not be able to benefit from fouling. And in this scenario in particular, by taking away the three-pointer completely, that is a huge benefit. And now, I'm not sure if the solution is 2 free throws in the ball in this scenario, or if it's 1 free throw in the ball or whatnot. I just think to disincentivize fouling at the end of games would be great. I don't want to relitigate the ELAM ending, but the ELAM ending would be an example of a way to work around that.
It works in other leagues. It does work in other leagues.
In case you're not familiar with the ELAM ending, it's a target score. So essentially the score, a final score target gets set. So let's say, it's 80-75, target score gets set to 100 points. And it's a game winner when a team scores 100 points. But that would eliminate it. The other thing is, again, even regular fouling at the end of games when you're losing isn't necessarily fun to watch. The losing team, and we all kind of swallow this as like a competitive thing. You got to foul because you got to hope that they miss free throws. I'd rather see these guys try to get steals than just play the free throw game.
Okay, well let me go the other way then. Don't be down 3. Right, that's the other solution to this.
There you go.
I've seen people tweet this out, but I think that's a valid argument, counter argument to this thing. Don't be down 3. Don't be in this situation to close the game. And also, if you are up 3 and you're getting fouled, or if you're down, basically make your free throws. Right, free throws are free for a reason. They are, for a lot of people, they say it's the easiest shot in the game. Make your free throw. Right, that's the counter argument to this.
I also think strategically, miss the free throw intentionally sooner. There's a chance there where you're down 2 after the first made free throw. And I think in this game it was, I don't know, what was it, 9 seconds left or something like that. Go ahead and try it there, instead of waiting until it's 3 seconds and then hopefully you can get a rebound. That's more strategic though. But as far as just pure like fan enjoyment of the game, I do think that this is something the league is probably going to have to think about. Because it's a huge game,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't FIBA do something along the lines of it being an intentional foul, right? If you foul in this way, it becomes an intentional foul and it's immediately a free throw plus the ball, right?
Yeah, it's the take foul rule. Yeah.
Right. So do that. I feel like that might be the way. But then there's also ways to game that system. So it's like, are you adding another level of gamesmanship that can be exploited?
We are destined for 47 minutes of good basketball and a minute of procedural paperwork and competition committee conversations and stuff like that. But I don't know.
Think the competition committee will look at this though, because I would say the frequency has gone up in recent years. At least from what I remember, like even 4 or 5 years ago, teams were not fouling up 3 at this frequency. Analytics have definitely caught up to the fact that this is the most efficient way to win a game when you're up 3 points. I think the game is the game, but also at some point, when are you going to make the TV product a little bit more engaging for fans, especially when you have an all-time level game like we watched tonight?
Yeah. And with the prevalence of the 3, right? Like it's a super important kind of character in the story of a basketball game. And to take that away down the stretch, I do think is bad for the drama. Anyway, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about banning fouling up 3. Go ahead and like and subscribe and give us a 5-star review if you're listening to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you might be. For Andrew Schlect and Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour. This has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.